Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest This is the Music Meets podcast. For episode 72, I'm delighted to be joined by rising solo artist Jen Dixon, who at the time of recording this podcast is just a couple of weeks away from releasing her debut EP, Less Than a Feeling. As well as talking about that, we're going to talk about our upcoming support slot with the legend that is Reverend And The Makers, and lots more on the This is the Music Meets Jen Dixon podcast. So, Jen, welcome along to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm good. Just enjoying the sunshine, which has finally come out. It's been a bit grey all day. Don't know what it's like down there.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad actually. Yeah, it's been quite nice to have it. It hasn't been too hot. It's been manageable, which is obviously always a good thing. So yeah, long may it continue. That's what I say.
2 weeks of British summer.
Well, I hope we have a little bit more than that. But yeah, let's what we're like with the weather. We're not happy otherwise, unless we're having a bit of a moan about it. So we're obviously gonna come on and chat about the debut EP very soon. But let's kind of like go back then to like the very start. What's like your earliest musical memory? Like maybe like a particular song that you can recall growing up that sort of, maybe got you into music.
Oh, this is a really difficult one. I actually had this conversation with my parents last night because I discovered they had boxes of vinyl and they had things like Pink Floyd and like just all sorts of like New Order and I grew up with Elvis. I think why? Why did you do this to me? So my first memory of anything musical is the concert that I went to when I was about 7, which was Steps. So yeah, that was not the best start to musical education. But yeah, I think the first cool memory I have is my dad did play me a Stray Cats vinyl when I was younger. And that I really liked that. I remember playing that on repeat. So that's definitely my earliest memory of decent music. But I wouldn't say that's my music sounds anything like the Stray Cats. So I'm not sure it's particularly helped. But yeah, so that's my earliest memory.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, because as well, you learned how to play the drums when you were quite young, didn't you? So, kind of like then, what was like the influence? Was like a family member or maybe a friend, or was it purely and simply like someone that you was a band or something that you were listening to? What was why did you
Yeah,
get behind the drum kit?
my uncle was a drummer, and then my cousin, she was a drummer, and I thought she was really cool, and I wanted to play the drums too. So, it probably stems from there. She gave me a couple of lessons, but just to get me started, and then
Yeah,
I ended up getting lessons at school.
right.
I think I was 11. Um, yeah, year 7. I started lessons when I went to secondary school. So it stemmed from seeing my cousin do it, and me basically thinking she was cool. And yeah, it went from there.
And obviously you was in like a local band, weren't for a period of time, but sort of what then sort of inspired you then to end up picking up the guitar then to sort of and then obviously becoming releasing your own music. What was the thinking behind that?
Um, I think part of it was that I broke up with my ex-boyfriend and suddenly found myself with lots of free time and like in a house on my own
Yeah,
and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity to start like actually properly teaching myself the guitar because I'd like dithered around with it and stuff at uni as you do a couple of chords, but I wasn't, I really wasn't like bothered.
yeah,
And then I just thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go and do it now. Give myself some confidence. Haven't had any confidence to do it. Been had massive stage fright for years and always hidden at the back. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to teach myself and see whether somebody will like join me at an open mic or something.
yeah, sure.
And yeah, a friend did, and he was really good at guitar, but wanted to sing, but wasn't the best singer. I was terrible at guitar and liked singing, so we sort of complemented each other a little bit. And
Yeah, yeah.
after about 4 or 5 open mics, I managed to get up there on my own. Still a bit wobbly voiced, but yeah, I got there in the end.
Oh, okay. So you saying that is there something like you do pre-gig then? You saying that you get a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous? Have you got
Oh
like a
yeah.
technique or something to try and get you in the zone, if that's the right word? I
Um,
don't know.
I think like for days leading up to it, I'm worried and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be terrible, and I'm really anxious, and I'm practicing and I'm messing up, and just probably really hard on myself. But look, Laura Jane, one of the people on big in the Twitter community,
Yeah.
she when she comes to my gigs, we do a dance to like get rid of the nervous energy. We're in like the back room and people walk in on us, and we're jumping around like idiots trying to get rid of that nervous energy. So that became a bit of a ritual with her. But I can't really do it when she's not there because it
Yeah.
just looks a bit silly on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to get like a pre-gig Zoom call going or something like that if she's not around
Yeah,
just to
I'll just make sure she's at every single gig.
that's
Just
true. Yeah, maybe put that in
drag her
the
around. Yeah. Put her in my pocket.
part part of the rider. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Laura has to come. Yeah.
So just sort of then bringing it a little bit. Obviously, he was releasing music like last year and stuff, and obviously like really really well received. But obviously sort of kicking off this year really with some really really big news because you were obviously selected as one of the Daily Star's artists to watch for obviously for 2023. So kind of like sort of a double question really in a way. So first of all, like how did you feel when you found out that you was being selected for that? And also as well, when you obviously first started releasing music solo, did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that you'd be, sort of like getting national coverage for your music at that, within or well, effectively 2 years, I guess, basically.
No, I didn't expect anybody to listen to it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm still of that opinion. I still get annoyed with myself when, I don't get as many streams as I wanted, or, people, I don't feel like people are listening and it's fallen on deaf ears. So I really did not expect to get any acknowledgement at all. And it wasn't even, I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know that nobody had like messaged me and said, just to let you know, we're doing this. It was somebody, there's a band called Benefits from the Northeast as
Right.
well.
Okay. Yeah.
And they actually had messaged and said, have you seen this? And because they're in it. And I was like, no, how has that even come about? And it was just completely out of the blue. So yeah, it was a massive shock, and I didn't quite understand what it meant initially. I was like, what is this? And then when I looked into it, I thought, oh, bloody hell, this is actually quite a decent, a pretty amazing thing to
Yeah.
have on CV.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, kind of like as well, and that's sort of blown my mind. I'm still trying to process that myself actually, that there was no, like an email or sort of some form of contact just to sort of like say, oh, by the way, we're doing this, you're in it, and congratulations. I'm yeah, as I say, mine's blown.
Like I might have never known, and it makes you think like, what else are people putting out there without telling you?
Yeah.
I guess. But so yeah, that was a really good surprise, and thank you to Kingsley from Benefits for pointing it out to me, because otherwise I would have known.
There you go. So, and obviously following on from that, and great news. Obviously, you announced the details of your debut EP, "Less Than a Feeling," that's going to be coming out on Friday, the 30th of June. I believe it's going to be across all streaming and download platforms. And
Yeah.
also as well, you did do 100 copies of it is going to go out. It's going to be pressed to vinyl, and I'm personally really looking forward to my copy landing on the door of that. So for those of us that aren't aware, can you maybe just give us a little bit of background into the vinyl and what people can expect from Less Than a Feeling?
Yeah. So the vinyl came about as from a like a pre-order campaign. And I had to get 100 people to order it before it got pressed. And I had 30 days to do that. So considering I'm like unsigned and nobody really knows me, it was quite a difficult thing to do, but I got there. The EP well, the vinyl itself is the EP on one side, and then all pre-release tracks on the other side, because I've never done any physical release, so I figured it makes
Right.
sense to put everything as a compilation onto the one physical thing that I have released, which is a beautiful blue vinyl, translucent blue, I must point out, which is just very pretty. And yeah, the actual EP itself is a mix of songs that I wrote. One of the first songs that I wrote, sort of first few songs that just never seemed to fit at the time. And then now I've started going out with a band, and the songs have started, meshing and changing, and my sound's changed a little bit. It's sort of, I thought, oh, actually, these songs would really fit on this EP. So yeah, the songs, that 5 songs that have been written over a period of 2.5, 3 years. So there's no specific subject on it, I suppose, because they were written over such a long period of time, but the actual they're all still very similarly similar subjects and things like that, but I guess the sound is definitely more together than I planned.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And is there like a song, well, I'm guessing about like the A side or maybe the B side that is like a personal favorite, maybe something that means like a little bit more to you? Or is it quite difficult as an artist really I guess it's like probably picking your favorite kid or something like that. Is it quite difficult to come up with something like that?
Oh, I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm quite hard on myself. So like I've listened back to the EP a couple of times and just been like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, what have I done? And I should have, oh, I wish I did that. Or this is, and I was trying to pick the song that I was going to send out to promo and things this morning to say, look, the EP's out in 2 weeks. This is the song that I'm sending out as part of that promo. And I felt like in my head, I was like, which one's not the worst? And that's the way I thought about it. So yeah, I really struggle to sort of big myself up and yeah, choose like a favorite song. I think my favorite song when I listen is actually Which Way Is Down, which was like released ages ago.
Yeah.
Because I produce everything myself, that's probably the only one where I'm sitting there thinking, oh, the production actually, it sounds together, it sounds quite
Right.
good. This EP I am nervous about because there's a few tracks on there that are just different to what I've been releasing, and I just hope that people don't go, what has she done? I'm hoping they're well received, but I can't do anything now. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, no, well, as I say, I'm looking forward to the vinyl and obviously hearing it when it comes out as well. So yeah, I'm sure it will be very well received. But kind of like that, sticking with the theme of sort of like what you have released so far. Obviously some of the songs do come across as being sort of like quite personal songs. Do you think that that's something that you would continue moving forward with your songwriting, or is that going to, that's sort of like what you sort of know best, if hopefully I'm making some sort of sense in that question?
No, you're right. It's funny because like people, like, when family members are like, oh, you're gonna write a song that's not like a sad song anymore.
Yeah.
Can you write about something else? And I think, well, look at people like Lewis Capaldi and Adele, works for them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you've got a niche. So the other day I thought, oh, I'll try and write a song about just something different, just try and do something different. And I wrote a song about cookies and tea, and then rhymed something ridiculous, raisins and amazing, or something like that. And I just thought, this is terrible. I can't write about, like, I write when I'm in like a certain mood and I'm feeling, it's my outlet, it's my way of getting things out there.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, one of them sounds like a song, and I think, oh, I could release that. So yeah, you might have a new album about cookies and tea in a year's time, or you might have me just continuing my sad songs and annoying people like my parents for being so sad. But yeah. Hopefully people can relate. That's the point. Like, if I'm feeling that way, then somebody else will be. And if that helps somebody, think that they're not alone, then fantastic.
Yeah.
If someone wants to sing along and bop along, fantastic. If people don't like it, that's fine. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you are definitely right. I think there are a couple of the songs there that do, would be relatable. I think to people listening, and I guess that's quite a skill in itself. I guess really as a songwriter to be able to write songs that sort of capture people's mood or person's mood or whatever it may be. So let's talk gigs. Obviously Friday the 14th of July, you're going to be supporting the legend that is Reverend and The Makers at Q Stockton. Firstly, how excited are you to be supporting the Rev? And for those that maybe aren't aware, how did the opportunity come about?
Obviously very excited. Also terrified. I've not done an acoustic gig for a while. It's all been with the band, and they give me the confidence when they're all sort of stood alongside me, making the songs really come to life. So going back to the acoustic is going to be a little bit strange, but my guitarist Phil is going to be stood by my side, and we're hopefully going to do something with the songs a bit different to what I've done previously acoustically. So that will be really exciting as well. And yeah, just obviously meeting the Rev and being part of the whole thing is amazing. I'm really excited, but yeah, I'm also terrified. So I also hope people come down for the support acts and don't just turn up to, for the last slot and I'm not playing to nobody. But yeah, the gig came about like most of my gigs do via Twitter. They basically put a call out saying that they wanted unsigned artists on the acoustic tour. So I just slipped into them DMs, and basically, yeah, it went from there.
Yeah, I think it's obviously fantastic to see really with a platform that he's got to be supporting unsigned bands, and I think artists. Sorry, I should say. So it's great to see, and looking across. I think he was down at the Water Rats in London. I think last week or the week before, whenever it was, and it looked like the artists that were playing there that that it was pretty packed. All the way through. So I'm sure that it'll be exactly the same for yourself when you're playing. But then sort of following hot on the heels of that gig, you're going to be part of the Tramlines Weekend Fringe Festival. Am I right in saying is that going to be a full band gig then in
Yeah,
comparison?
I'm dragging the band to Sheffield for the first time. But it's my first time playing Sheffield altogether.
Right, okay, yep.
So yeah, dragging the band along, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because it's just getting into different cities and obviously just meeting different people, but hopefully increasing the fan base, I guess. So yeah, that'll be really, really cool.
Yeah, and obviously you're playing it's a festival I've personally not come across before, but looking into it, it seems like it's been around for a little while. The Twisterella Festival, which seems sort of compare it to the Fringe Festival where it's sort of indie bands and sort of guitar based music. This Twisterella Festival seems to be sort of a bit more of a mixture of music genres going on. So how did that come about, and is it sort of again an opportunity to sort of try and get in front of different audiences really?
So, Twisterella is like my local hometown's sort of indie festival.
Right.
It has been around for quite a while. It's sort of we have Stockton Calling, we have Twisterella. They're like the big sort of ones in across Teesside.
Yeah.
And when I started off, my aims as an artist were to get onto Stockton Calling and onto Twisterella because they were the local festivals that I went to and thought I want to be on one of those stages. And this year I managed to get on them both. So that meant like a lot to me because I felt like I'd sort of hit my target, and now I'm a bit like, oh, what should I aim for now? So yeah, the Twisterella is a tricky one. We've had a couple of sort of grassroots venues close in the past year, and they were big venues. One of them was the sort of the Westgarth, which had just always had upcoming bands on, big part of Twisterella Festival. And yeah, to lose that was a bit devastating. So it will be slightly different this year because we've lost a couple of venues. but it's still going to be as big and as good as ever with amazing bands. So if anybody's fancying a little festival, I'd definitely head up to Twisterella. Fan base wise, I guess hopefully new people will get to know me, and hopefully people in the area. I'm just like solidifying my home base fans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, sure, definitely does. And kind of like looking across sort of the general sort of festival lineups, really. It one thing that seems really obvious to me is that there seems to be a lack of women playing, either solo artists, or even maybe women in the bands, or maybe they're the front lady or front woman, whatever the right how to say it. But knowing how many fantastic female artists that are out there, why do you think that women are constantly sort of like getting overlooked for the festival slots, and what do you think maybe could be done to sort of like improve that sort of representation at festivals?
Oh God, it's such a hard subject, isn't it? It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. I saw I think Sky News put some statistics on, and it was 17% of festival like headliners were women. And I guess demographically, potentially, if you were to count all of the bands and artists across the UK, maybe I'm assuming there is a majority of male.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's a male dominated area. So I guess the you are going to get that skew of percentage just because of the demographic of it. You can't fix that. The only way we fix that is by promoting it from a young age and getting females into music more from the start and building up that way. But it is really frustrating. I've just started doing a bit of like trying to get in a bit of promotion for in the Middlesbrough area, and there's a stage at a Stockton festival, which is like council funded. And I said, look, can I do a stage? And it's an all-female stage, and I've gone around and tried. And I don't think that's particularly the right answer, because it shouldn't be right. We are just picking the ladies. Like that shouldn't be the case. It should just be that you're picked for your skill. It should be that you're picked for your music. But at the moment, I guess it's just you are picked for how many tickets you sell, which is always going to win, because it's always going to be about money. Whereas if you give girls that spotlight, I mean, look at Rianne Downey now. Obviously, getting up on some really amazing stages with with beautiful South people. Giving somebody that platform allows people to see them, and then they get more fans. There's no other way of doing it. So if we don't get given that platform, we can't increase the numbers. So it's like a chicken and egg, isn't it? I guess. And somebody just needs to take a chance on more female artists and go, do you know what? We might not sell as many tickets, but it's the right thing to do. But I don't think that's going to happen very often, unfortunately.
And sorry, you mentioned there about a festival that you're putting yourself doing a bit of promo for in Stockton. When is that likely to happen?
That is on the 5th of August. It's called the Stockton International Riverside Festival, and at the Georgian Theatre in Stockton and the Green Room, they put on free music. It's an all-dayer. So I'm putting on the stage in the Green Room, and I've got 5 female artists or female-fronted bands to be in there from like 4 till 9 or something.
Right, okay,
So yeah, that'll be cool if it's free music at the end of the day, and I've got some really good artists in there, and the Georgian also have loads of people on. So yeah, it was really cool, but it was interesting because actually it was harder than I thought it was going to be, trying to find the female artists that were available that I thought were would be interested and that people would like their music. And so I understand why promoters do find it difficult. But but I think maybe that people might be put off too easily, because there are plenty of people on Twitter just crying out for gigs and not getting them, and it's the same old bands over and over and over on the same stages, which is just frustrating, but it is what it is. Got to just keep trying, cracking on.
Yeah, no, that's it, absolutely. And obviously, if you're in sort of Middlesbrough, Stockton region or Teesside, then get yourself down on the 5th of August, because that sounds like it's going to be fantastic and such a great thing as well to be doing. And he did just kind of like mention it there very briefly in your answer there about the chicken and egg situation.
Oh,
we're going to move
no,
away from.
You're not using that as a. That's not a link. You can't use that as a link.
That's the best I can do.
Okay, I'll let you off.
It proves I was listening. Let's go. We'll leave it like that. So let's move away from the music. Let's talk about the chickens. What's the story there behind that?
Well, what do you want to know? I guess you know, I got a house and I had a garden, and I knew somebody that basically rescued chickens and told me all about how they come from horrible circumstances and they're really bored because they're kept in cages and it's awful. And I just turned vegetarian a couple of years beforehand, and I just was like, oh, this is awful. I need to help the chickens. And just ended up going to rescue some, and just ended up with 6 chickens, all named things like Nugget, Korma, like totally inappropriate names for a vegetarian. That's saving the chickens, but I thought it was funny. And that was about 7 years ago now. So I've just continued rescuing. I now volunteer for the charity that I rescued them from, and go and help out on the rescue rehome days and things like that. And just every time somebody in the area needs a chicken rehoming, it just ends up in my garden. I mean, I just obviously can't say no. But yeah, I'm just a sucker, and they're just a perfect little part of my garden, and everybody sort of always asks me about them, and I guess it's just not a normal pet. Like, nobody asks about my dogs, you know. But just obviously it's a bit weird. So I think people follow me on social media for the chickens more than the music sometimes.
I'm sure that's not the case, but thank you there for sharing that there with us. So we're going to throw some little quick fire questions at you now. So the first one is, if you could go on any TV show as a contestant, what would you go on?
Oh God, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh yeah, obvious. Yeah, no, I like
I wouldn't
that.
get very far.
Yeah,
but like, that I'd give it a go.
Yeah, no, definitely. Why not? So if you could be, sorry, not if you could be, who would be in your fantasy supergroup?
Oh God, that's a really difficult question. I feel like I should have had some prep for these.
Yeah, I probably should have done.
Chester from Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Just because. And then oh God, I'm trying to think of. This is really difficult. I feel like I'm gonna have to like Google it or something. I'd be like Foo Fighters drummer, Chester, anybody else that isn't like around anymore that was like absolutely amazing, and just like shove them all together and make a super group and just really love them and just make sure they stick around. That would be my ideal. I sort of copped out of that a little bit, didn't I? By being like all like, emotional and like caring.
Brilliant. So if I was to give you a musical time machine, what era of music would you like to be transported back to? I mean, I'd imagine it'd probably be Steps for you, obviously from what you were saying at the beginning there.
Oh God, no. Do you know what? I would have really liked to have been more involved in like, I guess it's a hard one, that, because you're gonna, obviously like the Beatles era of music was like, massive in terms of things just evolved and changed, and it opened up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I would have liked to have been like a teenager in like the 80s, early 90s. I think that probably would have been, like I don't know, getting into like the Stone Roses or
Yeah.
going to like big raves and like, you know, I obviously missed out on all of that stuff because it all got like made illegal and things, didn't it? And
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like that would be the era I'd go back to because I think it sounds like it's the most fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wouldn't disagree with you there. So as you know, here at This Is the Music, we like to try and shine a light on unsigned artists like yourself that are establishing themselves on the new music scene. So kind of like over the last sort of 12 months or so, what bands or artists have you been listening to, that you really like what they're doing?
I'm always going to say Sylvie because I just I've always got on with her well on Twitter
Yeah.
and thought she was just like a genuinely lovely person that does really good music and has like the best sort of attitude towards it all. Like I get really like sort of a little bit like annoyed slash upset when I see people like just wearing like really short skirts and stuff. I'm like, you don't need to do that. Just like let your music shine. And Sylvie just yeah, she's just her and she's just normal and like her music's great. So definitely shout out to her. Um oh god, there's so many. Like people should just basically just make sure they're on Twitter and just part of that big music community. I quite like I've gigged with the Doxons a couple of times.
Yeah.
And they're a really good band. Um really enjoyed seeing them and just really nice lads as well. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
always good. So yeah, I'll probably leave it there because otherwise I'll just ramble about random people that I've had gigs with. But yeah, I'd say Sylvie is always going to be like my top recommendation for people.
Brilliant. There you go. So, Jen, that is the end of the This Is the Music Meets podcast. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story with me. But just before I let you go, can you just let the listeners know where they can find you on social media?
All my social medias are at Jen Dixon Music, and that's Jen Dixon Dixon, not with a CK.
Okay,
It's
there
very
you go.
important, that detail. Very important.
And we will include that link in the episode, or links, I should say, in the episode bio as well. And obviously, as we've touched on, your debut EP, Less Than a Feeling, is due out on Friday, the 30th of June, and that's going to be available on all streaming and download platforms as well. So make sure that you save the date and get that on your playlists on release day. Jen, thank you so much for coming on. As I say, you've been a great guest, and I wish you all the success with the EP and obviously the 3 or 4 gigs that we've mentioned in today's podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. We got through the whole thing without the dogs barking, and then at the very end, they're going off it.
Well, there you go. We'll get them on next time.
Thank you. See you later.
All that leaves me to say is to thank everyone for listening to the latest This Is the Music Meets podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss out on any future episodes. And if you're loving the podcast, show us some love by leaving us a 5-star rating and written review, as it really does help the artist we interview to be discovered. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again very soon.